from experts in English language and literature. What a week it has been. We have journeyed through debates, discussions and intellectual explorations that probably made us feel a tad smarter, or at least gave us excellent material to casually drop in conversations later. It's been a festival of ideas, imagination and immense inspiration pervaded by our esteemed speakers. The topic of this final session is Speaking Matters. And let me assure you, by the end of this session, you will understand just how much it truly does. Leading us on this exciting journey is none other than the phenomenal Dr. Dharmendra Sheth. Now, Dr. Sheth isn't your average speaker. He is a language magician who transforms learners into confident speakers. Today, he is here to guide us through the twists and turns of English pronunciation with a spotlight on features like reduction, elision, and assimilation. Think of it as decoding the secret of source behind fluent communication. And let's be honest, who doesn't want to sound effortlessly cool while speaking English? I invite Dr. Sheth to the stage as well as Dr. Paresh Joshi to chair this session. Now let me introduce our speaker for this session, Dr. Dharmendra Sheth. Dr. Sheth is the founder of Fluent Lingua, a Surat-based organization that's making English learning accessible, fun and practical. With years of experience, he has turned his passion for the English language into a mission to empower learners. To put it simply, he is the person you wish you had when struggling with those tricky pronunciations. Because let's face it, English can be downright mischievous sometimes. We are genuinely thrilled to have him with us today. And therefore, I request Dr. Joshi to felicitate Dr. Sheth with the university case and a book. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Sheth to the stage to enlighten us with this session. Speaking Matters. Dr. Sheth, the floor and our undivided attention is all yours.
Undivided should be highlighted.
Yeah.
It's working, yes. But the desk speaker you can use.
1, 2, 3, 4. Mary at the cottage door. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yes.
Eating cherries off the plate. Nursery rhymes. You have missed that. Anyway, so I have some seriously faithful enemies in the organization committee. Have you listened to me carefully? The last session of the program, post-lunch session, right? And wonderful food. Shrikhand. My goodness. What a sinister plan. By the way, I felt as if I was an outsider. But actually I am a part of this department. I taught here for 6 years and then I worked here as a student for 8 years. So I am not an outsider, I am one of you only. It's just that I'm a little older than you, that's it. By the way, what is the title? Will there be somebody to help me with this?
When I say next, you just click next. Okay.
So let's begin with the title. What's the title? Speak a little louder, one person at a time. I'm sure it can be pronounced in different ways. It can be presented in two different ways. If I focus on the first word, if I start the first word, speaking matters, then I'm talking about the material which we use to produce speech. And when I say speaking matters, that means it's important, right? Okay, so with that background,
Oh, thank you.
wonderful. So let me begin by seeking blessings of my gurus, late Dr. Sudhakar Marathe and Mrs. Marathe. She is in Pune right now. My introduction was given in very powerful words, but basically I'm a full-time learner and part-time teacher of English. Some ground rules for whatever 1.5 hours we are together. When in doubt, check it out. The moment you have a doubt about anything, don't ask anyone. Because if you're gonna second, they are in the same boat. Machines have a tendency to disagree with me. And there is a very obvious reason behind that. Because I am basically an engineer. I worked in industry for 6 years and then I switched over to languages. So machines are never happy with me. Whenever you have a doubt, you can stop me anytime, okay? I guarantee that I will listen to each and every question. But I cannot guarantee I will answer all your questions. But together we'll try to find answers if possible. And there are some people who don't want to ask anything in such gatherings. So don't worry, you can send me a WhatsApp message later on, right? And what are we going to do? Very simple things. We'll listen to certain things, we'll discuss, argue, contradict. We will do some repeat after me kind of activities. We'll talk about some symbols, pronunciation related things, and basically how a language is learned. We'll be focusing on that. So let's begin with some very simple questions, and you are allowed to speak loudly as an answer. Many people are not yet sure about what they want in life. Come on, speak loudly. Now the simple, innocent looking word, it can convey a lot of meanings. So let's begin with that. I want you to convey the meaning, whatever is on the screen, using the word YES. Okay? Your raw material is YES and your mouth. Clear? Okay. And you can speak loudly, no worry. Yes, you are right. Yes, maybe there is something else. Yes? Why have you come here? Right? Yes? Yes, now it is enough. 5 days of a program, it's enough. Right? Yes, very important. And at the end of the program, yay! So if just a word can have so many meanings, imagine what will happen in the entire speech, right? So let's agree that speaking is important. We have to spend some time on it. And what to study? I'm not going to talk about what you have already studied in your phonetics, right? We'll do something very practical, doable. You can answer immediately. Both are equal. You can try, you can make a guess. The question itself is wrong actually. Who said, oh yes? Who said that? Please explain.
So you are talking about the sound of the word, right?
Exactly, congratulations. So, am I talking about the letters, the length of the word, or the sound? Right? So if I'm talking about the sound, which one is longer? The first or the second? So teachers are saying second, so we must agree to them. Right? Whatever they say. The first, the second, they both have the same vowel sound, the long sound oo that you know. But what is at the end? At the end, if we have a voiceless sound, then the length is less. So loose is shorter than lose. Right? So you can never go by what is on the screen, what you read. Right? Letters, they are a very poor guide to pronunciation. Very poor. And you already know that there is no fixed sound to a letter. Any letter can have any sound. Right from the very first letter, English has, what did you say in your introduction? English, what is that?
It's mischievous sometimes.
Yeah, always. Not just sometimes, always. Right from the very first letter. The letter A can be spoken as A in able. It can be spoken as as in ability. It can be spoken as A in bad, action, act. It can be O as in own. Right? So spellings are a very poor guide to pronunciation. Now what can we learn from these words? Let's see. Can somebody speak these words?
Language, specific, information.
Somebody else?
Language, specific, information.
When you speak, please raise your hand so I can know where that sound is coming from. Anyone else?
Language, specific information.
Yes. So normally what happens, when we speak English, we use the patterns that we have in our mother tongue. It's obvious, it's normal, it's natural, right? You can't help it. Unless you are conscious of it, it won't change. So when you speak like this, language specific information, you are using Gujarati or Hindi pattern on English, right? And the very first rule, in fact, normally I tell in my programs, English is fill in the blank. English is, don't say funny. English is English, right? When you speak Gujarati, you have to speak in a Gujaratized way. When you speak in English, it has to be spoken in the way it is normally spoken. Every language has its own characteristics, sounds, rhythm, everything. So here, the first word is stressed on the first syllable. So speak after me. Language. So lang will be louder and which will be a little less loud. Language. In the second word, the stress is on the second syllable. Specific. Specific. Now those who are sitting like a statue and trying to speak, they won't be able to speak because in English, because English is a stress time language, you will have to use some movement. Either your hand or your head, your part of your body, you have to make a movement. Sometimes, when we have some good speakers, Paresh bhai, when we have some guest speakers, and students say, "Adamo hoshiyari mata tha." It is not hoshiyar, it is normal, natural for them. If you want to speak good English, you will have to make movements, right? So when you say specific, you can ask your partner to help you. Specific. I hope there is no World War. So first, language. Specific. And the third, now you know, information. Information. Now when you come across 10 words containing T-I-O-N at the end, and if you hear in the same way, for example, information, examination, calculation, so automatically you will pronounce it properly. But for that, what you require is a lot of good quality input, right? So from these words we can understand that word stress is very, it can change the meaning sometimes. For example, if there is a word like CONTENT,
Content. Content.
so if you speak content, that means there are things inside, right? What are the contents of that bottle? What are the contents of that book? So contents. And if I say content, satisfied, I'm content with what I have. Right? So you have to ask a question to yourself when you really go in the field. Ask this question to yourself. Are you content with your content? And if you are happy with your content, then there is a serious problem. Consult a good doctor. Right? Okay. Now, let's practice a few words. I want you to speak the words on the screen one by one. Let's start with you. Yeah?
Language.
Good.
Information.
Next.
University.
Pronunciation. Next, pronounce. Sorry.
Next.
Pronunciation. Career.
I'm happy to hear that word actually. The second last word. Because once we had a student, he came for an inquiry at our place, and he said, I'm worried about my career. So I said, what have you put there? Some luggage? He said, no, I'm worried about my future. So he was actually worried about his career. The stress on the second syllable, and it is career. Yeah. And the next word is?
Development.
No, before that. What's that word? When you have a doubt like this, what do? Nothing. Because you don't have a doubt generally. Right? And if at all there is a jam here, and who has a doubt, that person will do what? Google. This is one of the most unreliable resource for language study. Never ever ask Google. Google is only for some basic information. When was Shakespeare born, or where was he born? Something like that. Some primary information, not for real life study. Right? So it is bury. Bury. Burial place, burial ground. Right? Bury. And by the way, the kind of English I have adopted for myself and my students, that is generally, I think here also we follow standard British English. Most Indian universities, they follow standard, so-called standard British English. Right? So according to that, it is bury. 10th is? Okay, let's do one thing. I'll speak these words and you just try to copy. Okay? Language. Specific. Information. Literature. It is not literature. Literature. Stress on the first syllable. Literature. I am a student of literature. Not literature. Literature. University. Pronounce. Pronunciation. They both are spelled differently and spoken differently. Right? Career. Bury. Development. Development. Not meant, month. All MENT words are pronounced as month. Assessment. Achievement. Development. Systematic. Department. Even department. Yeah. Systematic. Engineer. Academic. Receipt. Generate. Gross. Gross salary and gross income and net income, right? Yeah. Technology. Psychology. Next. Gigantic. The next is, the last column is slightly difficult, yeah. Cool. And the next is ennui. Right? Now, no amount of imagination, even if you're Shakespeare's imagination, you cannot guess the pronunciation. Right? So you should just know it. The point here is, English pronunciation is a matter of information. You just have to gather information. How you gather, what sources you use, that's important. The next is facade. And once, in a program, somebody said, 31st program, somebody came to me and said, "Tumhe champa bhi sakyu se?" Champa bhi. I said, "What is that? Let me see." So he brought the bottle, and it was champagne. Hypotenuse. Days. Dayas पर विराजमान मेहमान नहीं. Days. The next is granite. Granite. And the last is fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. Now what can we learn from these sentences? If you speak loudly in your mind, you might understand what it is. Got it? What does it teach? Or what can we learn from that? Okay, let me speak. You practiced every day. Now use the same pattern and speak the second sentence. Once again. Next one. Now notice something. That stresses come at regular intervals of time. And that's normal, natural English. Right? You practiced every day.
I can't remember how. Peter will come and come.
The only sincere student. Right? Okay. Now, our syllabus is this. Everything that you do with the organs of your mouth, that is your syllabus. Right? And our communication goal is the same. We want accuracy, brevity and clarity. That's the ABC of our communication. Right? And you might have to decide the model. You know, many people, they fail in their English communication campaign because they don't have a particular model in mind. So for all practical purposes, we can take either standard British English or general American English or Australian English. And the last one, we don't have actually. Because in every part of India, we have their own variety. Forget about India. In Surat, you go to Varadkar, they have one, two, three, four, yeah. In Varadkar, they have a variety which is different from what we have in Pala, doesn't it? And if you go to Randhar, it is still further away from each other, right? So we don't have a standard recognized variety of Indian English, unfortunately. Some work was done in 80s for general Indian English. Professor R.K. Bansal did a lot of work in our university, but somehow we didn't catch on. So you can say whichever you want, but apart from that model, there are certain fundamentals of speech that we are going to discuss quickly. For me, I have taken RP, but you can take up whichever you want. But the rules which we are going to discuss, they are absolutely the same for all varieties of English. Okay. Now the first rule, if somebody asks me to give just one rule of English which can massively change your language, your production, then I will say the rule is this. And what is that rule? Any grammar word, I'm sure you know there are two kinds of words, either grammar words or non-grammar words. Right? Grammar words like preposition and articles and pronouns and auxiliary verbs, they're all grammar words. And on the other side, we have content words like nouns and adjectives and verbs and adverbs. They're powerful words. So the normal rule for English speech is grammar words, they always run to catch the next content word. And how it is done? This just one rule is enough to make a massive difference in your speech. These are the grammar words, you already know that, right? Now, look at the first phrase. The is a grammar word, so what will it do? It will run to catch the next content word. The morning. You not say the morning. The morning. Because the is weak. In the morning. Your focus should be on more in the morning. Right? A little louder. all the other features of English like rhythm, they will automatically fall into place if you just stick to this rule. Right? Rule number 2. If there are 2-3 grammar words in a series, what do the weak do? They always form a union. Right? The weak, they form a union. And that's why grammar words, they will form a union and they will be spoken almost as one unit. For example, in normal, natural, spontaneous, connected speech, this phrase will be in a very short time. So the first 3 words actually become like one sound cloud. Anina. Right? I need a room where there are. We don't say where there are. If you say where there are, you're gone. Right? The next, we sometimes say that England is the only country where you can have 4 seasons in one day. Got it? Now be careful. Third on words, they are all extremely useful rules. When there are vowels at word boundaries, vowels, that means the first word ends in a vowel, and the second word begins with a vowel sound. Then what will they do? They will marry. So here we can see in, then the, the, in the first phrase, in the, in the. Why? Because the next sound is a vowel sound. That's why the. Otherwise the French book, the English book. The sun rises in the east. Okay? The answer to the question. Right? So you can see the has e at the end and evening has e at the beginning. So they will marry. Right? In the evening. Can you speak after me? In the evening. The next is on the earth. So 3 words spoken as 2 words only. Then see outside. And the next is a very powerful rule. When there is a vowel at the beginning of a word, it has a tendency to steal the previous consonant. Steal, hijack, kidnap. And how it is done? Get, thup. Get, thup. So the first get becomes get and the second thup. Why? Because t is stolen by the next vowel sound. Right? And it is so common in the entire English language. It is not something specially created. This is what happens in normal natural speech. Yesterday evening at 6 o'clock, I was on a bus. And then bus, on a bus. You see how this last phrase is spoken. Get up at 8. Get up at 8. Can you speak? Get up at 8. Right? When I began the session, I started the nursery rhyme. Why? Because nursery rhymes are absolutely essential to improve your speech. They were created for speech. For example, this pasta rhyme. Has anyone heard that? Pasta rhyme? Mr. Potter loves his pasta. No one else faster. Mr. Potter's sister Rita buys the pasta by the meter. Mr. Potter's older daughter boils it all in tubs of water. So you can see there are so many places where the rules that we discussed earlier are applied. Second last time, Mr. Potter's older. Older becomes older. Why? Because the previous sound is sir. Right? You already know weak forms. C-A-N. How do you speak it in a sentence? C-A-N. In isolation, can. But in a sentence, just can. The weather in England can change very quickly. Right? Clear? So all grammar words, they are weakened, they change in pronunciation. Conventional abbreviations, you already know that. So we don't want to waste time on this. You already know this. Let me go ahead. Let me, right? Let me. I want to kill you. You must have heard in movies. I want to kill you. So wanna, I want to becomes I wanna. And the second last rule, fundamental rule, is put thy soul in it. You know, sometimes some people, when they come in the morning, when they meet somebody, good morning, as if this is the last day on earth, right? Apocalypse. So put your heart and soul into whatever you are saying.
Morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. And in the same way, some people they thank in such a fashion. I have to tell them, please don't thank me. Thank you. As if they're just shouting at me. So put thy soul into it. We don't have a lot of time, otherwise we can ask everyone to produce this in different ways. Anyway, now putting everything together, let's practice this dialogue. Okay, it's a part of a dialogue, not the whole dialogue. Any two volunteers, those who have not spoken so far? Some people have started looking at the chair and the desk. Any two volunteers? Come on, I have spoken so much. It's your turn now. Yes? Are you a student here? Yeah? Anyone else? Yeah? Please start. So A and B, two people.
That's a nice suit. I haven't seen before, have I?
No, it's the first time I've worn it, actually. I only got it about 4 days ago. You like it, do you?
Very much. Did you have it specially made, or did you buy it off the peg?
And in the pair, I want somebody from the far end, just to make sure that they're in the classroom, in the auditorium, in the hall. Any two, come on. Yeah, come on.
That's a nice suit. I haven't seen it before, have I?
Who is responding? Yeah, come on.
I.
No, it's the first time I have worn it. Actually, I only got it about 4 days ago. You like it? Do you?
Very much. Did you have it specially made or did you buy it off the peg?
Okay, fine. Now I'm going to share a worksheet with you, okay, where the whole dialogue is given, but I want you to do it independently at home as a part of your homework. And how will you do it? Look at this. What is the first line? That's a nice suit. So do you look at this rise and fall? In the English language, there is a lot of rise and fall. You have to change the pitch of your voice, the volume, the pace. That's a nice suit. Can you try? That's a nice suit. Everyone. That's a nice suit. Yes. You can even make movement of your body initially. At least hand. Right? That's a nice suit. I haven't seen it before, have I? I haven't seen it before, have I? Speak after me. No. Okay? And then, it's the first time I wore it actually. Okay? So can I share the worksheet? Or maybe at the end I will share that worksheet with you? My,
Beg.
but I want you to do it as a part of your homework. you try to produce it with a lot of movement, your normal logic will tell you, right? And if you are sure, you can ask me, I'll share audio file as well. These two slides I have added because I was coming to the Department of English. I'm sure many of you are literature lovers, right? Many of you study literature in detail. So even in literature, there are so many creations. If they are not spoken properly, you miss the charm. Which are the two most popular lines in English? In English literature, two of the most popular lines. Think about Shakespeare. Yes. To be or not to be? That is the question. Right? What about this? A famous Wordsworth poem. How will you produce it? Right?
I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not fail the touch of earthly years. No motion had she now, no force. She neither hears nor sees. Rolled round in birds, Diana course with rocks and stones.
Yeah. So you must have noticed that there is a rhythm. That rhythm is broken only in the second last line. In the second last line, it is rolled down. Otherwise, everywhere else, a slumber did my spirit seal, I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthly years. Right? What about this one? These are very famous poems, that's why I have taken them. Okay? Yes?
I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze.
Wonderful. So I'm sure you have noticed that there is a rhythmic pattern, right? So now we know what we need to do. 4 things. We'll practice the dialogue later on. Don't read it now. We'll practice the whole dialogue. So if you want to improve your pronunciation, 4 things plus a lot of things. So sounds, how many sounds are there in the standard English? In the standard British variety of English? 44 sounds. You can add 2 more if you have missed. So total 44 sounds. How many consonants? 24 consonants and 20 vowel sounds. How many diphthongs? Diphthongs? 8. 12 pure vowels. Right? Sometimes such fundamental things are required, even if they sound a little bookish or. Please study them. Now let's practice the following dialogue. Are you all ready? Look at the screen, not this dialogue, that we are going to do later on, but right now there is an easy version. Can we do like this? On my left, this entire part, you will play, say, character A, or whatever is the first line, okay? And the response will be given by people on my right. Is that clear? So they will begin and you respond. But don't start until I tell you. First you have to read the whole thing in your mind. Don't speak a single sound. Forget about a word. Don't utter anything. Just read. After you have finished reading, after you have understood the context, I'll ask you to produce it. Is that clear? Got it? Okay, now group A, you will start and you will respond. And use all the emotion, intonation, involvement, put your heart and soul into it. Imagine these people in a dense forest. Okay,
Sir,
ready? Yeah,
can we get this recorded? It would be a good thing, I think.
yeah, you can. But even otherwise practical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's start.
Look, look, yes,
Run! Only words, right? Have they all got the worksheet?
yes.
Can you please spend I want you to I want you to spend what has happened to my speech? Maybe because of the test. Please. So I want you to spend 5 minutes on the worksheet. Everyone should have that worksheet. No? And I want you to find out your best partner. You can change the place if you like. But I want you to work in pairs. And I want you to prepare this dialogue. And Paresh Bhai is going to ask any two of you to use that, present it. Okay, so prepare it in the best possible way.
They are already sitting with the desk.
Oh, is that so? So smart. But in case there is a change in your plan, I don't mind. You can change your partner.
Can you just take the link પછી બતાવી દેશે હા પેલું વિડીયો સ્પ્રેડિંગ આગળ બોલો
Okay, now Paresh Bhai is going to decide two people who would present.
Sir, give us
We're running short of time, that's why I'm sorry. Yeah. No, they can perform there itself, no problem. You can stand up and produce, that will be better.
Yeah, if you want to come here, you can. Come. Don't make them conscious. Listen.
Loudly.
That's a nice shoes. I haven't seen it before, have I?
No, it's the first time I wore it actually. I only got it about 4 days ago. You like it? Do you?
Very much. Did you have it specifically made or did you buy it off the pack?
I have I have it made. I very rarely buy a suit, so I thought I would have it trouser
ટેલર
tailor, and I am quite pleased with it.
I should think so. It's very handsome. May I ask you where you got it?
Okay, thank you. Another pair, thank you.
Somebody wanted, Richard.
સાયલેન્સ
19 years? Do you really mean to tell me you haven't had a suit since then?
That's right. I don't often wear so they tend to last long.
19 years is a long, certainly a long time. And even if you don't wear them much, your old one must have lasted well.
Oh, it did. They did a very good job on it.
What is the name of the tailor?
Philipson. It's quite a small shop right at the end of King Street.
I know it. Rather a shabby looking place. I've never been in there.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Now, when you practice at home, try to overdo a little bit. Overdoing, when a mother talks with a child, how does that mother do? Right? So a lot of involvement, even if it sounds artificial to you, right? That's a nice suit. That's a nice suit. I haven't seen it before, have I? No, it's the first time I wore it actually. I got it only about 4 days ago. You like it, do you? Very much. Did you have it specially made or did you buy it off the peg? I had it made. I very rarely buy a suit, so I thought I'd have it tailored, and I'm quite pleased with it. I should think so. It's very handsome. May I ask where you got it? The same place as I got my last one, 19 years ago. 19 years? Do you really mean to tell me you haven't had a suit since then? That's right. I don't often wear a suit, you see, so they tend to last a long time. 19 years is certainly a long time, and even if you don't wear them much, your old one must have lasted well. Oh, it did. They did a very good job on it. Okay, so like that you practice at home, use rise and fall, and experiment with the organ that God has given you. Right? So now over to Paresh Bhai. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
I think after this very interesting session, there should be so many questions. So if you have questions, we can quickly accommodate them and then move forward. Actually, the area he was touching upon is so tricky and naughty that there should be many questions. Yeah.
Actually, I have this question when we are trying to read something from the literature, or when we are trying to practice English with someone else. So there is this American English and the British. Their pronunciation are different. So there is this problem of accent, imbibing. So what should we do? Like there is a mixture of both.
If you remember on one of the slides, I kept 4 varieties of English, right? A lot of ink is wasted on trying to identify differences between different standard Englishes. People say American English is totally different. No, it's wrong. 99% the core is the same, whether it is British, American, Australian, or Canadian, or even South African. The core is the same. For example, the word stress, information. Information is stressed on may in all varieties of English except the Indian varieties. Right? So largely Englishes, standard Englishes are the same. And the differences, whatever differences you notice, they are uniform throughout the language. For example, in British English we have "o" as in stop, hot, not, got. In American it is throughout the language got it, stop. So if you are in an American English environment, within 5 minutes you will understand how the differences are. And that will not cause any serious comprehension problem. If you go to Australia, in Australia they have I in place of A. When we say A, they say I. Right? So one of the university professors from Australia, when he came to India, and there was a gathering like this, he said, I came here to die. So students said, if you really wanted to die, you should have died in your own country. Why did you come here? Actually, he was saying today, but in his English it was I. Right? So in the entire language there is uniformity. So differences are hardly 0.0001%. Right? So stick to any, it doesn't matter. And by the way, I am answering here, but you already have a stalwart like Paresh Bhai. He will answer all your questions after, I go. Right? Next.
Yeah. Any other question? As he rightly said, for my deliberations, we have classrooms and we'll use them. Yeah.
So you said that you should not ask anything to Google. I mean, in terms of pronunciation or language learning. So my question is that whom did you ask to when you were learning? And another question, that Noam Chomsky talked about nativist theory. It says that whenever you belong, that mother tongue influence will always be there. If you speak second language, your mother tongue influence will always be there. So if it is the case, then it is necessary to have such accent. Can't we be happy with our Indian accent?
Why teaching pronunciation? So that's the question basically, right? Why should we teach pronunciation? There are two things I can say. One, we believe researchers, and second, you believe people who are on the ground. Whatever people may say outside, the fact is that a person with good pronunciation is definitely well respected. That person has more advantages. For example, I believe most of you know Gujarati, right? Suppose you go to a doctor for some surgery, you have some medical problem, and you go to a doctor, and the doctor tells you, "Chalo kapi rakhiye." Will you go to the doctor? You will kick the doctor. You will kick the doctor and go out of that place, right? So everything that comes out of your mouth has value. And because we speak English, we have to stick to some standard so that people all over the world can understand. For example, when I was in the UK, in the US, before the UK, I went to the US. So in the US, we had people from about 200 countries, all teachers of English from more than 200 countries. And we were able to communicate with each other without, say that again? No. Why? Because we all followed a particular standard. We may not be able to reach there. I will never be able to speak like Tony Blair or any British guy, right? But at least when you try to reach towards that goal, and if another person also tries to reach towards that goal, they will be mutually intelligible, right? That's the main thing. And Noam Chomsky is an old thing. After that, we have many other people who have given wonderful documents. For example, Delheim's 1973 on communicative competence. Have you read that? Yeah. So that is actually the fountainhead of communicative language teaching. And in communicative language teaching, the focus is always on ABC: accuracy, brevity, clarity. And for clarity, we have to work on. Let me give a recent example. One of the students, he asked me, "What are your bad habits? What are your bad habits?" I wanted to slap him. Who the hell are you to ask me my bad habits? Bad, patani, and bad. Same and shame are not the same, they're different. The sun is not shining in the sky, the sun is shining. So pronunciation is for clarity. It is power. Acquire that power. Don't fall into a trap of those who say that pronunciation is not important. It is important in every language. Sakalam and Shakalam in Sanskrit, they are different. Sakalam means the whole and Shakalam means the part. Once at a party, somebody introduced me. He said, "Amara Shwajan se." I said, no. Shwajan means kutra na saga. And Swajan Atmeya. So pronunciation is important, whatever people might say in research document. That's my personal opinion. Thank you.
All right. I think this was by far an outstanding session. It has to be quick, otherwise the number is given.
Sir, what is your opinion about English and Englishness? Because EVR sir was here last year, and he talked a lot about English as a language, and then he said that our focus should be on English and not on Englishness. So I want your opinion.
Honestly speaking, I do not have any idea about what meanings are associated with Englishness.
Right.
I am Pakka Surti, and when I use English, I try to speak Pakka English. That's it. In the morning, I want losa. At the end of the day, I eat and drink whatever I like. Right? So, by Englishness, if at all, if it is behavioral aspects, then certain things will invariably come. You can't help it. For example, when I speak in English, I make more movements with my body. And I don't do the same when I speak in Gujarati. People have told me, say to Ushe Kumar, it is not Ushe, it happens. It has to happen. If it doesn't, I can't speak in English. Right? But if at all it is about mind related things, then I don't know about that. So we'll have to ask EVR sir, my colleague. Yeah. And you're my friend, call me Dharmendra.
All right, I think we'll conclude. Briefly concluding the area Professor Sheth was talking about is something that people run away from. Phonetics is something that I have given my life to. Majority of my research is in applied linguistics, and when someone talks about pronunciation, there's nothing as pleasing as that. I would conclude this entire discussion. Meaningfully, he brought in the importance of pronunciation. It sometimes, when we talk of pronunciation and mispronunciation, we think that it ends up being hilarious instances. That, well, I couldn't pronounce a certain word and people laughed about it. I wish that you go to Aviation Report 2016. There are as many as 8 aviation disasters causing about 1,200 lives. And these aviation disasters have happened primarily because the pilot and the air traffic controller, their pronunciations were not intelligible to each other. So this tells you the implication the pronunciations have. It just doesn't end up being hilarious instances. It has a cost to human life, and therefore every student of English needs to pay as serious an attention to pronunciation as the student is paying to syntax. And I totally agree with him. So I thoroughly enjoyed this session because I don't get to talk about pronunciation as that much because the majority of the times I'm busy with post-World War II theories and Indian literature, but whenever time allows, I have my glimpses on pronunciation shared with students. Thank you very much for that engaging session. I loved every part of it, and therefore my students also would have loved, I know that. Before we move forward, because then after this session we have a valedictory session, but before that session takes place, we have a small video. And I would request Joya madam to come here and speak a few words about, all right, you can, and then we would listen to that video. Thank you very much once again.